Welcome to The Explainer. We're digging into the story of a highly decorated Navy SEAL, a guy who was part of one of the most famous missions in modern history. But it turns out his biggest war wasn't fought overseas. Nope, it's been a 12-year battle against the very government he swore to protect. And this is the man himself, Matt Bissonnette. He was one of the elite operators on the ground for the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. For more than a decade, he was a ghost, his identity a secret. But his toughest fight, the one that's defined his life, hasn't been on some remote battlefield. It's been a long, grueling legal war, right here at home. So here's the question that's at the heart of this whole thing. How does a guy with a resume like this, 14 years in the Navy, 13 combat tours, a member of SEAL Team 6, how does he end up on a 15-year payment plan to the U.S. government? It's a crazy story of conflicting narratives, what he calls blatant double standards, and one man's fight for his own truth. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, A Hero's Punishment. This whole mess started when Bissonnette decided to write a book, to tell the real story of the raid. It ended with him losing pretty much everything. Let's talk about a number. $7 million. That's roughly how much the U.S. government seized from him. It was every single penny he made from his bestseller, No Easy Day. And get this, they took everything, even the $1.5 million he'd already spent on lawyers just trying to defend himself. So yeah, his life after the SEALs has been this absolute legal nightmare. He wrote the book because he wanted to correct the official story that was coming out of Washington. The government didn't sue him for leaking secrets. Nope. They sued him because he didn't submit the book for a pre-publication review. And here's the kicker. He actually won a malpractice suit against the lawyer who gave him the bad advice, but the government still made him sign a payment plan that's going to last longer than his entire military career. All right, Section 2, the path to the raid. To really get this guy, you got to understand where he came from. And believe me, it is not your typical journey. So Bissonnette grew up in this tiny, remote village in Alaska. We're talking about a place where he drove a snowmobile to school and literally bought his first AR-15 from his history teacher. His dad was the town magistrate who'd send someone to jail and then let him sleep on the family couch. I mean, coming from that world, a high school class of just 3 people, to then becoming the top graduate, the honor man of the most brutal military training in the world, that's just incredible. This number, man, this one hits hard. 43. That's the number of friends in Bissonnette's phone who were killed in action. It's just a raw personal look at the insane human cost of the global war on terror and the brotherhood he was a part of. So on to Section 3, inside the compound. All that training, all that experience, all that loss, it all led to this one night, Operation Neptune Spear. You know that famous Mike Tyson line, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face." Well, their plan was simple. Guys rappel onto the roof, other guys storm the ground floor. Easy. But within seconds, they got punched in the face. The lead chopper crashed, the backup landed outside the walls, and the entire plan was just thrown out the window. Total chaos. And that crash, it was a miracle. It wasn't a complete catastrophe. Bissonnette says if the mission had gone a day earlier, like it was supposed to, the air would have been cooler, the helicopter would have had more lift. But a 1-day delay, which she says was requested by the White House for a correspondence dinner, meant warmer air, less lift, and a crash that came inches from wiping out the whole team. Inside the compound, it's pitch black, it's confusing, and you just had to be creative. As they're creeping up a staircase, one of his teammates doesn't shout, doesn't bust down a door. No, he just whispers the name of bin Laden's son, Khaled. And that simple, quiet sound makes Khaled poke his head around the corner, and they were able to neutralize him before he could ambush the whole team with his AK-47. Just genius. The pure chaos of that raid is all in these little details. At one point, as they're trying to breach a door, a guy on the other side just opens up with an AK. A round slams right into the steel handle of the bolt cutters on Bissonnette's back, saving his life. And then, after the fight is over, they're clearing the house, and in the bathroom, a box of Just for Men hair dye? Just bizarre. So let's get to Section 4, a new kind of war. The mission was a huge success, a major victory. But for Bissonnette, getting home wasn't the end of the war. It was the start of a much different and much more lonely battle. And this is the part of the story that just drove Bissonnette crazy. What he saw is a massive double standard. Just 3 weeks after the raid, the
The director of the CIA himself brings Hollywood producers in to meet the team for the movie Zero Dark 30. But when Bissonnette anonymously publishes his own first-hand account, the government brings the full weight of the legal system down on his head. His decision to write that book, it really came from this growing sense of disillusionment. He's watching leaders in D.C. and in the military shape the story, take the credit, get promotions, all while, from his perspective, the guys who are actually on the ground, their welfare and their stories, were just being pushed aside.
So when that legal firestorm hits, he reaches out to his commanding officer, looking for some kind of help. The response he got back? A 2-word text message. Delete me. That was it. That was the only communication he got from SEAL leadership. And in that moment, he was basically cut off from the brotherhood he had poured his life into. Okay, final section. Section 5. Why I'm speaking now. After 12 years of fighting this thing in the shadows, they even disguised his face on 60 Minutes. What finally made him step out into the light?
Yeah, exactly. Why now? He's been fighting this fight quietly for over a decade. What was the final straw? Well, it boils down to one thing: another book and another fight. So Bissonnette has written a new book. It's called No Easy Way, and it's all about this 12-year legal battle. He submitted it for the required government review, but he believes the Department of Defense is intentionally dragging its feet, slow-rolling the approval, basically trying to bury his story. So he says coming forward like this publicly, it's his last resort. It's the only way he can shake the tree and make sure his story actually gets heard. So in the end, for Matt Bissonnette, this clearly isn't just about a book anymore. After 14 years of service, 13 combat tours, and a 12-year war at home, revealing his identity is his last stand. It's a final fight to own his own story and to tell it on his own terms.